And all right, here am I talking to you about the seven sisters of Goa. So, one is I have a very visual presentation for all of you all, which I'll just put it on in a minute. But before I begin, I would just like to give you a structure of the talk of how I want to take you on this journey. The first thing I talk about is the idea of the seven sisters in India, the Saptamatrika, the concept of Saptamatrika, which most of you, I am assuming, are would be aware of it. And I would just very quickly glance through it and then move to how are the seven sisters of Goa different and what makes them different. We'll talk about that. And then we'll move on to talk about the sacred ant hills in Goa, which are not technically anthills, but we'll talk about them. And we'll end with I think I will leave some open-ended questions for all of you all with this talk, which I always like to do. I mean, it's always good to leave you on a thinking note. So this is what I intend to do in the next 45, 50 minutes. So Seven Sisters of Goa, and this is just the structure of the talk for you. So the concept of Saptamatrikas, the seven sisters. Now, Seven Sisters of Goa is a folklore. Is there something written about it anywhere? No, there's nothing written about it anywhere as such in any sort of written literature. It is largely oral literature. And I think it's also with this talk, with this particular talk, and even the next talk on Vedals, I think there is something also I think we need to think rather or question ourselves, which is why do we also always look for written literature? Because writing is not that ancient phenomena. So can we also treat the oral literature as a valid body of literature, even if it is not written? That's something for us to, of course, think. And I'll talk about sacred anthills of Goa and concluding the talk with three important mothers. That's Mother Mary, the Devi, and the Sateri, and what really is Goa with these three mothers. So the concept of Saptamatrika, which is affiliated to the mother Shakti or the goddess Shakti, and matrikas means mother, so seven mothers. It indicates a group of mothers, and sometimes they are worshipped also as ashtamatrikas. There are also eight. There's one additional one, but there is no constant principle all across India. The most famous are the northeastern seven mothers. But again, there's nothing constant about these mothers. They take on a very regional avatar in whichever regions they are found. And they are believed to possess the courageous qualities of their male counterparts, which is, so if there is Brahmani, then she would be having the Abujas of Brahma. There's Vaishnavi, she would be having the Abujas of Vishnu. And then there's Maheshwari, she would have the Abujas of Mahesh, that's Shankar. Then there is Varahi, who is a short woman with an angry face, and she's a consort of Varaha. Similarly, Indrayani, who is a consort of Indra and his attributes. Chamunda is a terrific woman, and the last mentioned woman is a goddess with dishwell hair, and she possesses a dark complexion. Now, all of these are energies of they are the female energies of their male counterparts. And their descriptions are given in detail in Varam Mira's Brihat Samhita. Other than this writing, they are also mentioned in several other books. Like in Devi Purana, you will find mention of what kind of flowers are to be used for each of these goddesses. From when are these goddesses being worshipped? Probably from the Indus Valley civilization from that time. And if we talk about archaeological evidence, then the archaeological evidence dates back the Saptamatrika cult to around 200th century. That is with regard to a inscription which was found in Sanskrit and in Brahmi characters, which was issued by a Satvana king in 207th century. This is about the Saptamatrikas. What do we understand from literature? What role do they play? Well, in different kind of stories, they are invoked for fighting certain kinds of demons. The most common one is when Lord Shiva was fighting against Andhakasura, and when blood began to flow from Andhaka, wherever the blood touched the ground, another Asura started coming out of that blood. So in such a way, these goddesses were created to consume that blood and stop the creation of Asuras. This is one of the stories. Then there are other stories which you'll find similar function. One of them is from Devi Mahamaya, where they perform the function of vanquishing Raktabij. In another story, they help Brahma to kill Nritya. So these are basically different stories in different literature and the concept of the Saptamatrikas, which I think most of you know. But I'm just talking about this concept so that to understand how the seven sisters of Goa are different and where did they come from. The seven sisters of Goa have a very interesting story which has been narrated through grandfathers and grandmothers from time immemorial. The story is about these seven sisters who have come from somewhere from the Western Ghats. Where exactly, nobody knows. The seven sisters are Kelbai, Mahamaya, Lairai, Mirabai, Morjai, Azadeepa, Sheetalai. And there's one brother, Ketubah. So these are seven sisters who have been traveling from the Western Ghats and have come to, they have reached Bicholim. When they reach this place, Bicholim, there is already a goddess which is residing there. The goddess which is residing there is Shanta Durga. And these seven sisters and the brother go to her. So, well, since she's already residing there, she tells the seven sisters and the brother that they could go to Maia, and which is another place a little far away from Bicholim, and they can settle there in that village themselves. And this is how the seven goddesses and the brother moved to Maia, a little bit away from Bicholim, and they have to settle. So they have all come on an elephant. That elephant, then they tell the elephant, now you can go back. And the elephant loves the place so much, which is Verdenar, a place near Maia. He loves the place so much that he doesn't want to go back. And it is believed that this particular picture, which I'll show you in the next slide, this is that elephant, which is at Verdenar. This is a recent development in the picture, which is you can see that there is an open laterite kind of a temple. Thank God it's open. But earlier there were just trees around it, and there was no this construction. Only this rock was there, and this rock, which looks like an elephant, is believed to have become changed into a rock, and it's been staying here for ages. That's the idea. This is at Vietnam. And what happened to the seven sisters? Since the elephant did not go back, the seven sisters decided to settle over there. And while they decided to settle over there, one of the sisters, which is Kelbai, told the younger brother, Khetoba, that we will need fire for cooking. So can you will you please fetch us fire? The word is vistav, which is used. Vistav is a burning fire. So, so he has to get fire, and he goes around. He quite loves the place, Ketubah, one. And two, as he goes, he doesn't come back for a long time. The sister gets worried, which is Kelbai. Where is his brother gone? It's been such a long time. You can't take such a long time to get fire. And then she tells the other sister, which is Lairai, to go and look for him. And Lairai starts frantically looking for Ketubah. And what happens is that she finds out what Ketubah is doing. So while she's looking for him, Ketubah is so busy and in what he's mesmerized by children playing. And he's so mesmerized by the children playing that he forgets time, he forgets place, and he just lost over there. And that's when Lairai reaches over there and she's very angry that all of sisters are waiting and this boy is sitting here and looking at children playing. So she gets very angry. And she then goes to kick him from behind. She goes to kick him. The moment she, she puts up her feet to kick him, what happens is he looks at her and, he tries to dodge her. And while dodging her, he bends his back, like he bends his back. The moment he bends his back, he dodges. Yes, he dodges. And then he later realizes that my sister actually tried to kick me out. And he was unable to bear that sort of a sort of that action. That's that kind of an action, which could be an insult, but I think it's more than insult. I'm unable to find the right word for it. It did hurt him that his sister tried to kick him. So what he did was he said, well, I'm not coming back. I am just going away and I'm not coming with you. And he goes. He doesn't come back. The elder sister, Kelbai, who had sent Lairai to fetch Ketubah, discovers what happened. And she's admonished and she's shocked that her brother is gone and will never come back. So she admonishes the sister Lairai. And in fact, she feels more sad. Why did I send Lairai? I could have gone myself and fetched him. Why did I go? Why did I send Lairai? So she regretted that she sent Lairai, because of which Kelbai, the eldest sister, feels guilty that I sent Lairai, and because of which the brother is now gone and would not come back. So Kelbai says, all right, I cannot bear this guilt. I mean, I am going away because I can't be with all of you. And I promise that as a repentance for my action for sending Lairai to fetch the brother and the brother going away, what I will do is I will walk with fire on my head with 500 people. That's what she says. Every year I will walk with fire on my head with 500 dons. Dons is the word. It is one of the kind of, you can say it's a kind of a caste. So she says that. And when, so Khetoba is gone and Kelbai is gone, the youngest brother, the eldest sister is gone, Lairai is left. Lairai is heard that the brother has gone to Waingani. The sister Kelbai is gone to Mulgaon, another village. So Lairai felt very hurt and she thought I should go to a very, very pious place and live by myself all alone. And so Lairai decides to go to Shirgaon, which is a very pious place over there. And even she repents her action and she takes a vow, she pledges that I will, because my sister will walk with fire on her head with 500 dons, then I will walk on fire with 700 dons. That would be my pratignya, that would be my pledge. And that was a vow which Lairai takes. So Lairai goes to Shirgaon, Kelbai has gone to Mulgaon, Khetoba has gone to Waingani. Now there are four more sisters. Mirabai. Mirabai goes to Mapsa in between all of this. What remains is only now Azadeepa, Morjai, and Sheetalai. Morjai ends up going to Morjai. And no, Morjai actually walks into water. She walks into water and she just goes into water. Then this particular, she walks into water. I'll come to this story later of going into water, what happens to her later. Then remains Sheetalai and Azadeepa. Azadeepa decides to go to a totally different place altogether, far away from all of this. And she goes to the island Anzadeev, which is near Concon. And she goes there to that island, far away, isolated from all of them. Who remains now is Sheetalai. Sheetalai can't bear the pain of all of the separation of the family, and she decides that she doesn't want to be anywhere around. She wants to be in a nether space, neither world, and she doesn't go to any village. She doesn't go anywhere. Neither she goes to the earth. Neither she goes to the hell. But she chooses a place which is in between the both, and she chooses to go to Patal. That is Sheetalai. So Sheetalai goes to Patal, and this is how is a story of now we are left with 6 sisters and 1 brother who have gone to different places and settled. These temples of these goddesses, 6 sisters, and their brother still exist in Goa, and they are very, very, very popular. Their festivities are still carried on, and I will take on to their journey what happens now in from then to contemporary times. What is it now? Other thing which I want to tell you is about yeah. So this is a story of the 6 sisters and the 7 brothers, the 7 sisters and the 1 brother. I will take you all through each sister very quickly first. I mean, not very, very quickly, but yes, I will take you all through each sister and where they are settled and what their iconography now looks like, what do they represent, and so forth. So this is Kelbai. Kelbai has settled in Molgaon, but there are many, 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 many temples of Kelbai all over Goa. She is also incorporated in the Sanskritic tradition as Gajalakshmi. For that, I will share another image with you, which is, yes, she's also been incorporated in the Sanskritic tradition as Gajalakshmi. So maybe a Brahmin will look at her today in Goa as a Gajalakshmi, and possibly a Veli or a Kunbi, which is coming from the tribal caste, will look at her as a Kelbai. So technically, she is also Kelbai and she's also Gajalakshmi. She is both. You could say that she has been incorporated into the Brahmanical beliefs now. Possible. But she is called Kelbai initially. Later, she was also referred as Bhauka. Bhauka also comes from the word Bhumi, and Bhumi also comes from Mother Earth. So she could be a representation of Mother Earth, of Mother Earth. Could be one understanding. I'm going to share you. This is the original. Original murti at the Kelbai temple of Mulga, which is decorated. And this kind of murtis of Kelbai with elephants flanking water on both the sides can be found spread across Goa. Also, she is found in sacred groves. Now, when I talk about that's a separate topic altogether, but sacred groves, there are devrais, which are pristine forest, which are left as a playgrounds for gods and goddesses in Goa. And actually, it's a playground for gods and goddesses because many of these gods and goddesses statues, these deity statues are just lying in open air. So in open air, which I could share one or two with you. Which like this one. This one is a Kelbai statue in Kurshem, in the Sacred Grove. And most of these panels are of this kind, where the goddess is in the center with the elephants on both the sides, and then there are warriors, artisans, weavers, the different kind of people all over these panels. This is in the Sacred Grove at Kurshem. I'll show you another one, which is at Savorday, and I'm showing you them for the only purpose to tell you how they're scattered all across. They are on the soil, they're on the ground, and they're just trees around them, and there are other statues around them, or other rock formations or other rock statues around them of other goddesses. So this is Kelbai. On my journey, I was very curious to know why she was called Kelbai, and one of the person gave me a very interesting answer, which I haven't seen. I didn't know that answer was this way. So what she holds is actually the banana flower. So because she holds the banana flower, she is called as Kelbai. And for that, even during the Jatra of Kelbai, banana poles are erected outside people's home to welcome the goddess into their houses during Jatra. That's Kelbai. We come to Mahamaya. Now, Mahamaya is one of the sisters who went and settled in Maia. So, okay, talking about now Mahamaya. Mahamaya is one of the other sisters which went to Maia, and she was a younger sister, actually the youngest. Now, what's interesting is, when she went to Maia, in the earlier days, it's believed that Maia was haunted by different kinds of spirits, different kind of spirits which were not helpful spirits, very problematic spirits. And Mahamaya wasn't able to live alone at all. She just couldn't settle at Maia. And so what she did was she sent a message to her sister, Kelbai, the eldest sister Kelbai. And then Kelbai came to Maia from Shirgaon. She lived, from Mulgaon, and she came and she lived with Mahamaya for about 2 days and helped her settle, living into this new village, Maia. And then Kelbai went back to Mulgaon, where she came from. This is how the story goes. And then Mahamaya settled in Maia. Now, this particular story of Mahamaya and Kelbai meeting each other still continues in the form of Pethechi Jatra, which I will again come to you with proper visuals. But Pethechi Jatra means every year till date the villagers of Mulgaon take a basket of a cane basket, just called a pate, a kind of a big peti, in which there are masks of sacred gods, deities, and that mask are taken from Mulgaon to Maia every year. And those masks, these two goddesses meet, and they stay together for 2 days, 2 nights. And again, those masks are brought back. So that is Pethechi Jatra, still continued every year, where Kelbai goes to meet her younger sister, Mahamaya, till date. That's about Mahamaya. These are the dons. I spoke to you about the dons, the people who carry sacred mask, or the people who carry the peti. So these are the people who are called dons, and they have this colorful wicker stick, which is made from cane, and these canes are entwined into each other, and lots of colorful wool is added to it. It has a small opening on the top. So every door needs to have this vent. It is called vent. And every door needs to have this vent for this festival, for this jatra. So you will find all these men participating in this jatra when Kelbai goes to meet Mahamaya. Now we come to Lairai. Lairai, okay, but the one point I forgot about the earlier goddess Kelbai is Kelbai loves aboli flowers. So all aboli flowers are used in Pet Jatra. In the Petiji Jatra, aboli flowers are used tremendously. When we come to Lairai, Lairai loves Mogra. So Mogra flowers are used in worshipping her and in her Jatra. Now Lairai is that eldest goddess who went to Shirgaon. So Lairai does not have a form. She is depicted in an iconic form where there is a kalash, and the kalash is a huge, almost a circular shaped kalash in which symbolizes the mother's womb, and there is water in it which symbolizes the amniotic fluid, and then there are birds of mogra in it, small buds which are put inside, which is basically beings born into that water. So in short, it is an absolute representation of the mother goddess, of the mother goddess. The people also believe that the circular kalash represents shunya, from which the earth is born from shunya. So again, Kelbai, if I made a simple, I just made one statement about Kelbai, how she's a representation of the mother earth. How Lairai is a representation also of the mother earth for people, for people. That's one thing. Now this is there's a Lairai's story, which I will also share about to you right now. So Lairai didn't exactly go to the village Shirgaon. She went to a village little closer to Shirgaon, which is not a village. There were no people then, which was called Mudir. And Mudir is a place where Lairai went. As I said, the first thing is she said a vow that I will walk on fire with 700 people as my pratitnya. So what Lairai settles in Mudir, and there is a village Shirgaon, little away from it, and there are two robbers who come in that place Mudir. And in the place Mudir, these two robbers come, and what Lairai does is she blinds both of them in some way, and she keeps them in a lake. She keeps them in a lake. So when what she does is she visits one of the villagers of Shirgaon in the dream and tells them that there are these two robbers kept here. You can take them away from here, but do not harm them. Just let them be blinded, but give them new clothes because they are wet. Give them new clothes and leave them on the border of the village away. So they are far away. And that's what she asked one of the villagers in the dream to do. The villagers come, the villagers find these two robbers, they take them, they give them new clothes, and they leave them on the border of the village. Now Shirgaonkars, the village of Shirgaon, realizes that this is a goddess. She has come into a dream and told all about this. So we should invite this goddess to stay in our village. So they asked her to stay in Shirgaon. And Lairai asked for two promises, two conditions. She said, yes, I can come to your village on two conditions. One, there should be no consumption of poultry. Two, there should be no serving of liquor or brewery anywhere in that village. If these two conditions are maintained, I will come and stay in the village of Shirgaon. Village of Shirgaon, mostly still, from what I see it still largely doesn't have poultry. Eggs are not sold close, mostly in most of the shops. and it doesn't serve liquor. Is it? Is this very surprising to see in Shirgaon? In my experience, no, because this is a kind of a little common story in most villages of Kokar. You will see this also in Sindhurdur. You'll also see it in Ratnagiri. You will see this, that there are villages which do not have, where they don't drink alcohol, or where they are fully vegetarian. Something of this kind are there in, and it's believed that their goddess doesn't allow. So it's there. One is that. Two, inviting goddess to stay in your village. This is very common again. And again, goddess going into dream, or a deity going into dreams and telling somebody something. Again, very common. Again, very common. Maybe we'll discuss this in the discussion, why these kind of commonalities of these mythological folklores rather than using mythology word, why these folklores. I think we can discuss it in the discussion, because I'm sure even you all will have something from your own villages to contribute in this discussion. So this is Lairai, and now from Lairai we move to Milagres Sabin. So this is Milagres Sabin, and I'm sure you're looking at her and wondering, oh, she's a Catholic goddess. She's Mother Mary. Yes, she is Mother Mary. And she is also Mirabai. Her original name is Mirabai. During the Portuguese Inquisition, she got converted to Milagres Sabin. And so she has become a Catholic deity. But does she not remain a Hindu deity? Not at all. She is still a Hindu deity. She's still a Catholic deity. Rather, religion doesn't make that big difference over here, because she's most commonly known as Milagres Sabin. And a feast, which happens after Easter, is known as the Feast of Milagres Sabin. She is located in the St. Jerome Church in Mapasa, which some of you may have passed by when you were in Goa because of its location in Mapasa. And she's located in this church. So during the feast of Milagres Sabin, what happens is Hindus and Catholics both come to worship her. What is done is, after the traditional morning mass, one statue of her is taken out on the church ground. There's a big pandal, a canopy created, like how you find at St. Michael's in or Mount Mary, the kind of typical canopies, the typical pandal. The typical pandal is created, the statue is kept outside, and there are Hindus and there are Catholics and there are all kinds of people who come to worship her. The statue is kept outside, and very interestingly, people pour on her coconut oil. So the way we offer coconut oil to gods like Hanuman, coconut oil is offered to her, and not just by Hindus, but also by Catholics. So because it is believed that she is the younger sister, Mirabai, the Hindus and the Christians both worship her as Mirabai as well as Milagres Sabin, both of it. So you can see the oil and the steel cups kept over there to pour the oil on her head. Now this is the way Milagres Sabin comes to be worshipped till date. And there is one thing also interesting about Milagres Sabin, which is that okay, it will come to me again. Which is basically, so Milagres Sabin is a very close sister of Lairai, the Lairai from Shirgaon, who loves jasmine, that is Mogra, and who is represented in an iconic form, which is, she doesn't have a form. So Lairai and Milagres Sabin have a very good sisterly bonds. Because of that, during the Milagres Sabin Jatra, which is this Jatra, a big pot of oil is sent from that temple of Lairai to Milagres Sabin, to the church, to be poured on her. Similarly, during the Jatra of Lairai, Lairai Jatra, Milagres Sabin. These both Jatras happen almost in the same week or the same 2 weeks. So so in that Jatra, in Lairai Jatra, who loves, as I told to you, Mogra, a big basket, which is ojame, which is called ojame, a big basket of Mogra flowers is sent from Milagres Sabin to the sister Lairai in Shirka. Now, there is a question which I was trying to understand. Who is sending the ojame? The basket of flowers, who is sending it? Is it sent by the church committee or is it sent by somebody else? As far as the clay pot of oil is considered, the oil is sent by the temple committee of Lairai Shirgaon. But when it comes to the basket of Mogra flowers, that answer nobody still knows. The basket automatically comes, means somebody brings it, some villager, that it has, it is sent to the Lairai temple. When it was confirmed with the church, the priest said, we don't send it. Maybe the priest formally doesn't send it, but the believers of Mapsa or somebody from who believes in possibly in this Milagres Sabin is sending it for years. Maybe some family, some community, some Gaunkar who must be sending it. And it has been sent till date now. The basket comes to the Lairai Jatra. And this is the way these two sisters maintain their cordial relationships. So even though she's converted to Catholicism, she still remains Mirabai and Milagres Sabin, a confluence of the both for the people. For the people. This is an aspect which possibly I might want to dwell a little bit more, because this is an aspect very common in Goa. It's not only with Milagres Sabin, which is a Mapsa. There are other churches also, like Saint Anne's Church, and there are other places and other churches also where this kind of syncretism takes place, where the Hindus participate largely in Catholic feast, and even in the Catholic feast, even in the Hindu feast, the Catholics participate. So it may be not surprising that the sponsorship, like, the biggest sponsor for a Satyanarayan Puja in a temple would be a Catholic person. And for the feast of a particular deity or a saint, there would be a Hindu who would be sending the uh, 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 the donation. So, for example, when it comes to Mangeshi, also a lot of Catholics still do send coconuts for the Mangeshi temple. There's a very beautiful line even in the film Trikal, if any one of you seen, and I think Trikal is one of the best films to. I think the best films which represents Goa so far, made by Sham Benegal. And there's one line which the matriarch of the house says, she's a Catholic family, and the film is shot in Mario Miranda's house. And she says that wo Mangeshi ke nariyal bhejna bhulna mat. So that kind of a thing. So that which as a Catholic family they send. Anyway, the point is I'm trying to talk about is this sort of the syncretism, which is very specific to Goa, but there is an amalgamation of Catholicism, of Hinduism, of animism, which is basically got to do with a lot of tribal deities, and I would say even Islam, and even Islam, because there are certain jatras in which there are exchanges between the peers and the folk deities, which also happens. I don't think it is only in Goa again, because I have seen this again common in Ratnagiri and even in Sundurdurg. Like there are the Peer Jatras in which everybody participates, and there is a sort of a mutual exchange. In fact, most often the sweets are also the same sweets which are available for both of these fests. Like you will see patio. Patio will be there whether it's Diwali or whether it's Milagres Sabin Fest or whether Easter. So same goes for cardio bodio, which you will find Like Kadyo Budyo would be very, just Khaja. The Khaja you will find as a sweet, even for some Peer Jatras and even for some Christian Jatras and even for some Hindu Jatras. So I think this amalgamation is very, very important, and possibly we'll discuss this amalgamation in the end when I bring the three concepts of the Sateri, the concept of Mother Mary, and the concept of Devi together to talk. That is when I would like to, have a little discussion with you. What do you perceive it as? We come to Morjai. Morjai is the sister who went to Morjai. No, wait. I left that story half over there. Morjai is that sister who went into water. And so Morjai went into water, into the Arabian Sea, and a fisherman was fishing, and in his net, this statue of Morjai goddess was found in his fishing net, and therefore the Morjai goddess was established at the temple, and she was found in Shravan Krishna Tridoshi at that particular time. Therefore, Shravan Krishna Tridoshi happens to be the month of a fest of Morjai. So Morjai's festival happens in Shravan, and she is worshipped in the festival in the form of a kalash, which is a kalash utsav, and the kalash is taken out from the temple and taken to every house. Now, this is something I'm sure if most of you come from Konkan would know this, that the village deities, the village deities go to every house. In some, it is a tradition of palki. In some, it is a tradition of kalash. In some, it is a tradition of palanquin. These traditions are very common, where the village deity goes to everybody's house in that village. And sometimes it takes, depending on the size of the village, it takes 1 month, it takes 2 weeks. It goes every house, and then it comes back to the village. Something that is common to most Konkan villages. Only what is different is somewhere it's a kalash, somewhere it's a dwaj, somewhere it is a palanquin, and somewhere it is the mask. So the mask of gods. So that remains. So this is the Morjai temple. I'm specifically showing you the Morjai temple for one reason, because it is done in the Kavi art. So some of you may be aware of Kavi art, in how Kavi art is. One, it's rare. Two, it's very few temples have Kavi art. But in Goa, there are some temples which have Kavi art. And amongst all these temples that I showed you, the Morjai temple has Kavi art. Kavi art is a specific type of, it's a blend of a European technique, of a technique of Renaissance, which was carried out. And again, it's a Hindu technique at the same time. It is not a surprise that the Goan temple architecture is largely a combination of Islamic, Hindu, and Christian architecture. It's a combination of all of such, because most Hindu temples in Goa have a dome structure. Anyway, I'm coming back to Kavi art. Kavi art is where there is a plaster of a red plaster that is first put on the wall, and immediately on it, a white plaster is put, a white coat of a plaster. Now, before the white plaster could dry up, you take a scraper and you start scraping a design on that white plaster. And when that you scrape out, you have the beautiful red design behind. This is what is known as the graffito art, or also known as a Kavi art over here. I will show you with one more temple later, because there was in one more image I saw this. This is a side entrance of the temple. Yeah, most of these temples have thatched roofs. And in fact, later in the later slides, I will show you that a lot of these temples also look like houses from outside. So that was Morjai. Now we come to Sheetalai. As I mentioned to you, Sheetalai went to Patal. So I've not put a representation. Of course, there are representation of Sheetalai. You could simply go to Sheetalai Devi temple at Mahim. But yeah, so but there is no representation of Sheetalai because over in Goa, I mean, the sense in the story, because she goes back to Patal. She goes to Patal. So she chooses another world. You will find maybe a small temple, like small, when I say small, actually like those gumat kind of 3 feet size temples around the main temple. Somewhere you'll find Shitla Devi also, but not as temple as such. We come to Azadeepa. Azadeepa went to Anzadeep. Anzadeep is actually an island near Concon at the south of Goa. Now, this island is today taken over by it because it was handed to the Indian Naval Base. So nobody lives there, nobody can go there now, and therefore nobody really knows if there was ever a temple of or a temple or a site or a shrine of Azadeep on that island. That island's name is Anzadeep, which possibly means that she did go there, but there is no such sort of way available to find out now because it was handed over the Indian Naval Base for a long time. It's still handed over, and I think after a point, it might have also, if not taken care, of course, it would have been uh, destroyed with the ravages of time, even if there was a shrine or there was something. We come to Ketubah. This is Ketubah. If you look at Ketubah's sculpture very carefully, he is bent from his waist. All his statues which are there, but all Ketubah temples in Goa have a bent waist because he bent when Lairai tried to kick him. So all his sculptures are still bent, whichever are available in Ketubah. And he holds a trident in one of his hands. So that's Ketubah temple at Waingani where he is settled. Uh, okay. Now we come to the Pratidnya. I mean, these are okay. These are the different different deities. Okay, I have mentioned to you about it in the. Okay, I just wanted to take a look at the time before I. Okay, all right. So yeah, Pratidnya, the pledge of fire. So I mentioned to you 2 pledges, one pledged by Kelbai, one pledged by Lairai. What did Kelbai pledge? That I will uh, uh, I will take fire on my head and walk for and walk with 500 dhons. What you see are dhons. These are people collected outside the Kelbai temple with their colorful vent sticks, and they're collected outside the temple during the jatra. And this is what the fire on the head looks like. So this is the topmost is called the kandi. The kandi is the biggest diya. Now you might ask how many diyas are there in this? No, there is not any specific number. Just that the clay pot is actually made by a kumbhar from the village. The kumbhars are given that task of making. The cotton wicks which are put into this actually come from the dhobi caste. What I also see in this is my understanding, but I think that's what I've seen with most these temple traditions and these jatras is most of these village festivals are a lot to do with the functionalism of the village uh, caste, or rather communities. I won't use the word caste, maybe community. In Goan context, they're known as Gaunkars, now known as Commute Dade. So the Gaunkars. So, there are different Gaunkars and they have different surnames and they have different occupations. But, you can understand society in a very Durkheimian sense, like when Durkheim spoke about society, he said, what we really worship in a religion is not really the God. The God the deity is a symbol of us, of society coming together. So technically we worship society. The word he used for this was sui generis. Of course, I'm talking from a very sociological perspective here, but I find it very relevant to understand Indian societies and Indian festivals in this context, especially in this context. Different kind of people come together. to worship, and they have a role to play. And then there is a mode. The mode is a person who takes this on his head. The mode normally comes from a specific family again, and then the mode walks and other people also walk with him. These all festivals are very, very high energy festivals, and therefore the mode, the people around, they also go into a state of trance. I have just clipped one video for you all to show you so that you just have an understanding of how all this works. I come to next to Lairai from Shirgaon, who is represented in an iconic form, as I said earlier, who loves Mogra. And her devotees, these are dhons of hers, who walk on the fire. So there are people who walk on the fire. She said, like she pledged, no, I will walk with 700 people on fire. So a big home kund is created where these wood is brought from Keble Ran, which is near Maia. A specific ran is there from which this wood is brought. And there are also people who bring their own wood, on their head. They circumambulate the home kund 5 times and they offer it. I mean, as Indians, offering to gods and goddesses is something so intrinsic. So, and people take an oath, people take an oath, and then they walk on these ambers, which you can see. So there are people who walk on these ambers, the dhons walk. Now you might ask a questions, can anybody walk? Can you also walk? Yes, of course, anybody can walk. There are men who walk, there are women who walk, there are young children who walk. There are different kinds of people who walk. In fact, in the recent years, a number of women have come forward to walk across these ambers. And there's a good number of participation also of them. But yeah, there is some sort of procedure these people follow. I mean, don't forget, coming back to Shirgaon, Lairai's place, this is a place where it's strictly vegetarian, non-alcoholic. So when before the festival, 9 days before, like this is again common, you would see this also to do with the Ayyappan festival. When you go for the Ayyappan pilgrim, you are on a sort of a certain diet and certain restrictions that you follow. So this is again common here also. For 9 days, people go on a specific diet. The dhons go on a specific diet. They have to take bath in the sacred pond next to the temple. These are their vents, which you can see. And then these are vents which are made in the temple. They have to take their vent, another thing. And there is a strict diet, which is made only of vegetarian food and followed. And before they consume food, they have to take bath. Before they consume water, they have to take bath. 7 days, the vegetarian diet of minimal food. And last 3 days, it's absolutely a diet of only fruits. Only fruits in the last 3 days. 6, 7, 7, 8, 9, yeah. So that is a diet followed by the dhons, whoever wants to walk on the fire. And now we come to the promise, the reunion. The family which separated when I started this discourse on the 7 sisters. I will talk about the reunion now, the promise. So there is Pethechi Jatra. Let's go back and remind you how Mahamaya was scared that with the spirits of that village she wanted Kelbai to come, and Kelbai came and met her. So now every year, what they do is, these are the mukhotas, the mask, the mask of goddess Satari, of goddess Kelbai, of Mahadev, and of Ravarna. So these are the masks which are taken. Now, also throughout the years, they have incorporated the local other deities also, the village deities. If you realize, a lot of these Kokan traditions are about Gram Devat, Kul Purush, Kul Devats, and all of these families, the village deities. This is the basket, the pate. The pate is made, and on it, that different kinds of, as you know, the haldi, the kumkum, and the rice is spread. After that, the masks are brought out, and that's a dhon, which you can see. All are dhon, but this dhon will be involved in carrying the fire on the head or the pate, either, because he is dressed in red fabrics. And the masks are taken out. They are placed inside the pate. The four masks are placed at Mulgao, which is the place of residence for Kelbai and at Kelbai. So these are four mass placed. So Sri Devi Kelbai Prasanna. And then it is decorated. As I said, the community, the Gaukars, the tasks are distributed. Who will remove the mask, who will put the mask, who will get the peti, the decoration belongs to some other community. So that is always segregated. And maybe that's what is social solidarity. That, it's actually worshipping the togetherness of the society, if in the Durkheimian sense. Then the pate is decorated. And this is the video of how the pate is taken out and out. Now the pate goes to meet from the Lairai goddess, will go to meet, the Kelbai goddess will go to meet Mahamaya. So, which is an annual promise. I'll play this video. As I said, these are moments of high energy, and the dhones which carry the pate or anything regarding the temple or the god or the goddess, some of them do go into a state of trance. Of course, I'm not getting into that discussion because I don't think any one of us answers to those questions, which can be dealt in a different way. But yeah, and this is very often of people going into a state of trance, breathing heavily, profusely, or even fainting, screaming, dancing, all of that. This is the other clip when they're taking it on the road. I want you to just have a glimpse of how huge is this Jatra of Petechi Jatra. So yes, the Jatra is taken in the night from Mulgao of Kelbai, the pate, and the pate reaches by morning to the Mahamaya temple, and then from Mahamaya temple another pate is taken, which is a pate of Mahamaya, and both of these pate are brought together at this place called Savato, which is a place designated where both the pates would be opened and kept together for display for 2 days, 2 nights, the meeting of the Kelbai and the Mahamaya, as going back to the folklore that I mentioned. And then these are kept for 2 days, 2 nights, and then again the Mulgao Peti, which is of Kelbai, is packed and taken back to their own village, and then their festivities begin. And here the festivities are begin already for Mahamaya. So this is the way how these two sisters meet, which is Kelbai and Mahamaya. I'm going to come to this is my concluding part, which is the sacred anthill. You might be wondering, I've already spoken about sisters, why I'm bringing this sacred anthill. Now, sacred anthill is something that's, I think, important for this particular discussion, because every time and again, I was repeating, or I was using the word mother goddess, or the representation of mother goddess. What is mother goddess? Mother goddess has been worshipped in Goa as ruin. Ruin is anthill. These are anthills. This is a Sateri temple. This is a Sateri temple in Morjai. And you can, behind very quickly, you can just also see the Kavi art with two snakes and the circular design. This is another temple with Kavi art, but I'll quickly come into why anthills. For time immemorial, possibly from what I understand, uh, these the worshipping of the anthill is basically worshipping of, it's called ruin, and ruined is derived from an Austric word rono, which means holes. So this is the worship of the mother goddess, uh, which has been worshipped by the original settlers of Goa, who are not the Aryans, who are not the Brahmins, who are basically the Kols, the Munda tribe, which are now the Kunbis, the Velips, and the Gaudi tribes. So these people used to worship these sacred anthill. These are not made by ant, as you know. These are made by the insect commonly known as termites. But anyway, so this is another one at Vironda. This particular one, if I'm not mistaken, is about 10 feet high. And this is in Vironda. Yeah, that it's inside a temple. They are all inside a temple. In fact, I'll show you the Poingani one also. This is the Poingani temple, and inside this temple is this anthill, the sacred anthill, which is basically the goddess Satari, the mother goddess. So mother goddess was worshipped for ages. In it dates back, according to this great historian, Ananta Dhume. It dates back to 3500 BC. This method of what it could be prior to that also. And now this is a question to all of us. So there is the Sateri goddess, which is spread all across Goa, which is the anthill. The Sateri is also represented in an iconic form also. I'm going back to a very interesting part. You remember when I mentioned that Lairai went to Shirgaon. Before she went to Shirgaon, she went to Mudir. Mudir is a village still date in which the goddess Lairai is worshipped as an anthill. There's a white paint on it, a white anthill. The question is, are these seven sisters a representation of the mother goddess? It's a question. We really don't know. We will have to work on it. So is it really the mother goddess? One. Two is the question of Mother Mary. All the Catholic female deities are referred as Sabin. And the word Sabin means mother goddess in Goa, in Konkani. It means Sabin is mother. If also you say in the context of Goa, the worshipping of Mother Mary is way more prominent. The worship of Sabin is way more prominent than the worshipping of Jesus, the male god, the deity, the male god. The worshipping of his mother. So is it that because the Hindus were converted as a mass conversion into Christianity, they started seeing the mother goddess, which they used to see in the Mother Mary, because Mother Mary is also mother. So did they start seeing the mother in this in their Mother Mary? Did they start seeing the original mother? Is something that all of us can think and spend time. But I wanted you all to, I wanted to bring to this concept of the Sateri and the mother goddess and Mother Mary. So it's going back to the animistic spirit, the animism of Beliefs and Kumbis, which is the mother goddess, as anthill, Sateri in iconic form from the Sanskritization, and eventually coming to Mother Mary, the proselytization of Christianity. But it's eventually the mother goddess in all of the three. This is this is an I'm ending my presentation with three last slides, which I want to end on this note. So this is a temple of Sateri at Maushi, a village called Maushi, and the village is called Maushi. I went over there, and this is a picture which I liked, and I clicked, and there's a really a guy, a guru, who was the caretaker of the temple. He came in, and I was asking him different questions like which goddess is which. So he explained me Brahman, he explained me Sateri, and after a point, when I asked him who is this and who is that, uh, he just didn't know the answer. He's like, he didn't know the answer, which are these gods and which are these goddesses. And he gave me an answer, which has still remained with me, which is my last slide. And this is another place in Keri, and you can see me, a small fellow, lost in that vast vicissitudes of these Goan temples. These are three temples which are in Keri, sacred groves. A lot of questions. I think I went in search of Vetal and I stumbled upon this. It was a lot of questions and a lot of questions but that man, this is the man, the guru who was there, and his answer was, how does it matter? Who are they? They must have been somebody's deities. This was his answer. He's like, they are somebody's deities. And due to proselytization, when a lot of Hindus were converted and these statues were destroyed, a lot of them, hung onto these statues and ran with them. Some of them immersed them into water. So when the water receded of rivers, these statues were found. Some of them dug into earth, and when people were farming, they found these statues. And wherever they were found, they were just kept by the people who found them. And this temple is one example. And I think that is where I end my presentation on the Seven Sisters of Goa. And I think we can take a discussion now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Omkar Bhatkar. You really emphasized and drove home the importance of oral history for all of us, and also the necessary resultant learnings about syncretism in India. Let's look at the questions.
Want me to read all of them? I
No,
can.
no. I've done that for you,
Okay.
as I would do for your next talk also. Our people are always interested in stories. So let me begin with the first question, which asks, is there any story about the concept of the oil at Milagres Sabin? Why oil?
Why oil? So it's going back to Mirabai. The way Mogra is loved by Lairai and Aboli is loved by Kelbai, the coconut oil is loved by Mirabai. So it's
Okay.
the Mirabai.
Okay.
So
And is there any other story about Kelbai holding the banana flowers? Why
Kelbai
banana flowers?
banana flower, is a story I found with only one person who told me that. But I found it very interesting because I used to always wonder why Kelbai. But when he just pointed out those banana flowers to me, it was so evident. Because I was always stuck between the idea of Gajalakshmi and Kelbai and Gajalakshmi and Kelbai. But it made so sense. Why is it Kelbai?
So does the banana flower appear in any other iconography, any other stories, any other mythology of Hindu philosophy?
Not of the deities that I'm aware in iconography who holds banana flower.
Okay.
In both the hands. In both the hands.
Okay. There was another question also in connection with stories. How did the sisters become goddesses? Is there any story to that?
How the sisters become goddesses.
Yeah.
Um,
I,
I think, okay, this answer I can answer in this context. A lot of the Konkan, I would not say Goan deities, a lot of Konkan deities are not this great uh, uh, goddesses of 18 and 10 hands. They are more like human beings with some sort of little powers, possibly. But I would use the word they're guardian deities. They're guardian deities. So if you, it's, it goes this way. Why the Mother Earth was worshipped? Because the Mother Earth gave you fruit, flower, nutrition. Everything came from Mother Earth. So Mother Earth became a symbol of fertility, and Mother Earth became a goddess. Similarly, who protects your house? Who will protect your house when you're gone from the house? There has to be somebody. So there has to be an old grandfather. And therefore, the old grandfather, you will find temples of Azoba, temples of grandfather in Goa also. So Azoba. Similarly, who will protect your agricultural land? So the other god Ravalnath was created for protecting agricultural land. Similarly, who will protect the village? Somebody has to protect the village. So you come to Vetal, and Vetal comes there, which we'll bring in the next conversation, next session. And there is Kshetrafal. There may be some economic problems. Who is going to solve these problems? So there is Kshetrafal. So, if you look, these are ways of finding a functional way of making sense of existence. And then years and years, you start worshipping them because it's a belief that somebody's taking care, and that somebody's Ravalnath and Vetoba and Azuba and all of this. In earlier days, people used to forget their ways because there was no light and you could get lost in dark. There's another god for that also, which is Devtsar. So Devtsar is one who takes care in the night if you get lost, and if you're a good human being, he will guide you.
Okay. What a lovely story. Staying with stories, Bharat's question was, there are statues similar to Kelbai in Sindhudurg, and there she's referred to as Bhavai.
Yes,
Is there
Bhargav.
any connection?
Yes, Bhargav is absolutely right. As I use a word earlier also, sometimes she's referred as Bhumika. Sometimes the word BHA is important, or Bhavai. She's the same goddess, just with different names.
Okay. In all the celebrations and all the feasts and the jatras that you showed, Omkar,
Yeah.
how come there were only men participating?
Thank you
Diksha
for
wants to know
this
that.
question. I don't know if you raised it or somebody raised it.
No, my colleague Diksha raised it.
Yeah, thank you for that question. This is one critique which I myself have of most of these festivities, because there is a very, very strong emphasis on the man, the masculine, the patriarch. Though I would not deny that there are separate festivals in which only women participate. So that for me becomes a breather. Oh, so there are festivals which are meant only, and in which women take all that important duties which men are doing here. So one of this festival is Dhalo, which is the harvest festival, and it happens, well, no, not a harvest festival, it happens with regard to Sateri, the mother goddess. So there only women play larger roles. Women were not present here in all these pictures that I showed you, but where do women come? I'll tell you. When these statues or these masks or the tarangs are taken to people's houses, there the women come decked up with all their jewelries and rich clothes, and there is where they start worshipping these gods and gods. But I have seen a change which I had not seen many years ago in Konkan also. In earlier days, in this dancing of this transcendent trance dancing, only the men would dance. I've seen the last few years women coming and nobody stopping them. That's a good sign. Nobody stops them. So women also come and they also dance. There is the palki tradition in Konkan, in which the palkis, the mask in a palanquin are danced by men. Now there are women also who take the palki and dance with that palki. So it is changing. It is changing, and it's a good sign.
Yes, definitely a good sign.
Yeah.
Sridhar says that he's been to the island of Anjadeep before it was acquired by the Navy. And he says that it was uninhabited and like a picnic spot. And there didn't
Yes.
seem to be any shrines because there was no
There is a
habitation.
high possibility. I think it would have been damaged by the ravages of time
Okay. Okay.
because people don't live there.
So you mentioned there were a lot of similarities. There was a lot of mingling, if I may say so, Milagres Sabin and the other one. So Ninad's question was, as a concept, is feast and jatra the same? As a concept, not specifically for the instances that you quoted.
Yes, so Jatra and feast has the same meaning only because it's of the, if Christian goddess, it's called feast. And it's not everybody uses the word feast still. Most people still say Milagres Sabin Jatra only. So that still remains.
Are there any other Milagres Sabin shrines closer to Bombay?
You know, let's let's leave Milagres Sabin, but
Okay.
let's look at the St. Michael's perpetual. I mean, at St. Michael's Church, the perpetual circle.
The
I don't
Mahim one.
Yeah, Mahim one.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of Hindus refer to the perpetual circle not as perpetual circle. They refer to her as Mauli, and Mauli means mother. So they look at her also as a mother goddess, no, and a mother goddess who is a okay, very commonality. Good, you brought this, Faro. Very a commonality between Mother Mount Mary, Mahim Church, and Milagres Sabin.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, a commonality is that all these goddesses are offered wax statues of hand, feet, house. So you ask for a house. If your vow is fulfilled, you give a house to the goddess, or you give a feet, or you give a hand. You give a baby also. You give a baby also when you deliver a child. These are technically the animistic ways of worship. These were done initially to Sateri, Kelbai, Morjai. These were done to these deities. And when Christian deities came as Mother Mary, I think our ways of worship did not change. Our ways of worship still remains the same, which is the very animistic way of worshiping. So we still ask in a very, yeah, some people may say it's like bribing gods and goddesses, but I think it's beautiful. It is a very personal nature of worshiping, that you can ask your god, okay, give me this, okay, give me that. And I think it's very personal, god and goddesses then, and I think the personal nature of worshiping is super important. Let gods not be there to sit and punish you, but let them be there as friends, as colleagues, as lovers, as so forth.
Um, in my growing up years, Matmauli was a
Yeah.
common phrase, so to speak. Every September it would be open up from the cupboard and everyone would say, let's go to Matmauli.
Yeah.
Okay,
This Farooq, something beautiful about Bombay, which I cherish and I always share with friends of my generation, that there were days in Bombay where people would go to Haji Ali and Mahalakshmi together, and they would also go to, St. Michael's or Mount Mary during the Navinas. And I think the idea of the religious barrier was not that strong, which one of the reasons why I love Bombay. It's very pluralistic and polyamorous in this nature, and at the same tradition I was brought up with. So I too have a big frame of Mother Mary in my house, which I call Mother Mary, but my grandfather called it Matmauli, and my grandfather called it Matmauli, and it's so interesting. Uh, if any problem is there in the house, rather than going and lighting a diya at the house mandir, he would go and place a candle in front of the Matmauli. That was his way of asking for something. So he would do it with a candle to the Matmauli. And I think that's a very beautiful way of growing up.
I hope it remains well into the future. Last question from Ninad. Is there any specific terminology for the commingling of architecture that you showed? You talked about the mixing of the Hindu architecture and the Islamic and the Christian influences. Is there any specific technical term for that?
Ninad, I am sure there would be. I'm sorry, I don't know the term, because for a long time I have taken interest in these small temples and open temples. Like next time I'm doing Vetal, a lot of Vetal shrines are open air and small temples, which I showed you in the picture. But there would be a term, Denal. I'm so sure. I'm not a great person with temple architecture. I don't know too much. I just know very little. But yeah, there is a the Mangeshi temple and the most important temples of Goa share the Christian, the Hindu, and the Islamic architecture. But I don't know the term, but I can find it. But even you can. It's there would be.
Okay.
But you
Thank you.
also use
Thank
the
you
word
very much.
Goan
Sorry.
temple architecture commonly. Sorry, you also use the word temple architecture very commonly. Sorry, yeah.
Thank you so much, Omkar. It was really fascinating. I think, like I said earlier, it really reiterates the importance of oral history for all of us,
Yeah.
and how important it is to cherish it. And from the point of view of Khaki, how important it is to document it in some form.
Right.
So thank you for that, and thank you everybody for attending.